She smiled softly. You keep testing me, I said, only to see how much you want me to. I still remember the first time she let me sit in her kitchen when the house was quiet. No music, no background noise, just the sound of the clock above the stove ticking too loudly. She slid a mug toward me, coffee gone lukewarm because we'd both been talking too long without drinking it. She had this way of half smiling, almost like she regretted letting it slip out, as if showing warmth cost her something. Her hair fell loosely around her face, strands silvering at the edges, and I couldn't stop staring at how she never tried to hide it. That kind of honesty, it made me feel young in the wrong way, like I hadn't earned the right to sit there across from her. You don't say much, do you? She asked, lifting her cup and taking a small sip. Her eyes stayed on me longer than they needed to. I talk, I said. My voice cracked at the start, which annoyed me immediately. Just not when I don't know if I should. That made her laugh, though soft, low. You always make it sound like there's something dangerous about talking to me. And maybe there was. The truth sat somewhere between my chest and throat, that I thought about her more than I should, that her presence twisted the air into something thick and close. But I just shrugged. She leaned back in her chair, stretching slightly, like her body had grown tired of holding everything in. You're testing me, she said, not accusing exactly, more like she was wondering out loud. I didn't know what to do with my hands, so I folded them together on the table, thumbs pressing hard into each other. Maybe, I said, and tried to smile. The look she gave me, sharp, curious, unreadable, made my chest pull tight. She was older, settled in her skin in a way I'd only seen from a distance. But there was something else beneath it too, something restless. I wanted to tell her that being around her felt like standing too close to a storm, the kind that didn't start with lightning but with stillness, with air too heavy to breathe. Instead, I picked up my coffee, tasted how cold it had gone, and set it down again without drinking. Do you even know what you're doing? She asked after a pause. Her voice wasn't mocking, but it wasn't soft either. It was a careful knife, pressing against me, seeing if I'd flinch. Not really, I admitted. But I know I don't want to stop. Her fingers traced the edge of her mug, slow, distracted. I watched the motion like it meant more than it should. She didn't answer right away. The silence between us stretched until it hurt. Then she smiled, small, almost reluctant. You keep testing me, she said, shaking her head just slightly. I leaned forward before I could stop myself, elbows on the table, the space between us narrowing. My voice came out lower than I meant. Only to see how much you want me to. Her smile faltered. She looked down, then back at me, eyes searching, unreadable in a way that made me ache. And right then, just as her lips parted like she might actually say something, her phone buzzed on the counter. The sound was too loud in the still room. She froze, glanced at the screen, and her expression shifted in a way I couldn't place. She didn't reach for it. I stared at her, waiting. The phone buzzed again, and she whispered, almost to herself, "Not now." The phone kept buzzing, each vibration running across the counter like it was meant to break the spell between us. She finally flipped it face down with a sharp motion, the sound of glass against granite echoing in the quiet kitchen. I wanted to ask who it was, but the question lodged itself behind my teeth. The silence stretched again, heavier this time, until she sighed. You think you're the only one who doesn't know what they're doing, she said. The words didn't match her tone, half brittle, half weary. I watched her thumb press against her mug like she was grounding herself. You've done this before, I said before. Thinking. Her eyes lifted quickly, narrowing just slightly. Done what? I hesitated. Held back. Pushed someone away. The line of her jaw tightened, but then it softened, almost too quickly. She leaned her elbows onto the table, resting her chin in her hand. You make it sound simple, she murmured. Like I haven't lived long enough to know where this goes. I swallowed hard. She was right, of course. She had lived longer. Enough years, enough people. I'd seen the framed photos in the hallway. Her daughter smiling in a graduation gown, a man with kind eyes in an older picture, the ring still on her finger though he was long gone. Divorce, she'd mentioned once, brushed off like it didn't matter anymore. But the way she avoided certain questions told me it did. You think age makes it easier? She added, her voice soft but pointed. I shook my head. I think age makes you afraid of starting over. Her eyes flickered. For a moment, I thought she'd end the conversation right there. But then she laughed quietly, and it wasn't cruel. It was tired. Smart mouth, she said. I shrugged, staring down at my hands. The skin on my knuckles was rough, cracked from the construction work I'd been doing over the summer. Next to her, I felt young, unfinished, too raw. But she didn't look at my hands. She kept her gaze steady on me, as if she was seeing something else. You remind me of someone, she said finally. Who? She paused, then shook her head. Doesn't matter. Just someone I knew when I was your age. Someone who wanted too much, too fast. Her words should have stung, but instead, they pulled me closer to her. Because I could hear the undercurrent, the way she hadn't said whether she regretted it or missed it. I don't want too much, I said quietly. Just this. Right now. Her lips parted, like she might argue. But then she stopped. Her eyes lingered on me, softer than before, and for the first time that night, the tension between us shifted. Not gone, just quieter, closer. The clock ticked above us. She reached for her mug again, but her hand brushed mine as she did. It wasn't deliberate, but she didn't pull away quickly either. Her fingers were warm. Mine tightened, just slightly, holding the edge of her hand longer than I should have. And in that fragile moment, neither of us moved. Her hand was still under mine when the sound came. 3 knocks, quick and sharp, at the front door. She froze. The warmth vanished as she pulled back, her chair scraping slightly against the floor. My chest tightened, the space between us collapsing into panic and silence. Stay here, she whispered, standing too quickly, smoothing her hair with trembling fingers. I sat rigid at the table, every muscle on edge, listening as she walked down the hall. The door opened, and a voice carried in, young, female, familiar. Her daughter. I knew that voice from the photographs in the hallway, from the graduation cap on the mantel. Mom? I tried calling, but you didn't answer. Is everything okay? My pulse hammered. I stared at the mugs on the table, at my fingerprints on the ceramic, at the faint impression of her lipstick on the rim of hers. Everything's fine, she said, her voice measured, calm in a way I hadn't heard before. Just tired. There was a pause. Footsteps shifted. Are you alone? The air in the kitchen turned heavy, suffocating. I could hear her hesitation, the slight catch in her breath. Yes, she said finally. I exhaled slowly, careful not to make a sound. The daughter's voice softened. I'll come back tomorrow. Get some rest, okay? Another pause. The door shut. Silence pressed in again, too thick. When she returned to the kitchen, her face looked different. Colder, harder, like she'd pulled a mask on that she couldn't take off yet. You should go, she said quietly. I stood, my chair legs screeching against the floor. Do you want me to? Her eyes snapped to mine, sharp, pained. She didn't answer. I took a step closer. Because I don't want to. Her arms crossed over her chest, like she was holding herself together. You don't understand. She can't know. No one can know. I wanted to reach for her, but my hands stayed useless at my sides. Then why let me in at all? She flinched, barely but enough. The silence between us was a wound. She looked at me with something that wasn't anger, wasn't exactly fear, but cut just as deep. You're too young, she whispered. Maybe, I said, my voice shaking. But I'm here. Her lips parted, her body leaning just slightly toward me, before she caught herself and turned away, pressing her palms flat on the counter like she could steady the storm inside her. I stepped closer anyway, close enough to see the fine lines at the corners of her eyes, close enough to feel the heat radiating from her skin. We shouldn't, she said. I bent forward, my words barely a breath against the space between us. Then why does it feel like we already are? Her eyes flicked up to mine, and for a split second, the world shrank to just that look, raw, dangerous, unspoken. And then the doorbell rang again. This time, neither of us moved. The second ring was longer, more insistent. It rattled the air between us. Her shoulders stiffened, but she didn't move toward the door this time. She stood there, palms flat on the counter, breathing too shallow, her jaw tight. I couldn't stand still. Who keeps coming here? My voice cracked with something I hadn't meant to let out. Fear, anger, both tangled together. She turned slowly, eyes narrowing. Why do you care? The question hit harder than it should have. I opened my mouth, then shut it. Because the answer was obvious. Because I wasn't supposed to admit it. Because I can't stop thinking about you, I said finally. The words came out like a bruise, raw, ugly, too loud for the quiet house. Her lips parted, but no words followed. The doorbell rang a third time. This time I moved, but she caught my wrist halfway down the hall. Her grip was firmer than I expected, her body close enough I could smell the faint trace of her perfume, warm and sharp. "Don't," she whispered. I froze. Her hand lingered on mine longer than it should have. "You don't understand what you're doing," she said, her voice trembling now. "You keep saying that." I shot back, pulling my hand free. "Like I don't get to choose this. Like you're the only one allowed to decide." The mask slipped for the briefest moment, her eyes wet, vulnerable, something breaking through the control she fought so hard to keep. "I'm not who you think I am," she said, voice cracking. "I've made mistakes. I've hurt people. And I'll hurt you too if you let me." I stepped closer, chest tight, words tumbling out before I could stop them. "Then hurt me. Just don't shut me out." Her breath caught, sharp, and for the first time all night, she looked almost afraid, not of me, but of herself. The pounding at the door stopped. Silence pressed heavy again, more suffocating than the noise had been. Her eyes dropped to my mouth before darting away. My pulse surged, every muscle in my body screaming to close the distance. "Say something," I begged. Her hands trembled as she pushed them against my chest, not hard enough to make me step back, just enough to remind me she could. Her voice was low, ragged. "You're making this impossible." I covered her hands with mine, holding them there, feeling how warm and unsteady they were. Maybe it was always impossible. Her eyes locked on mine. The air between us went thin, sharp. Every second stretched too long. I leaned in, close enough to feel her breath against my lips. She didn't move. And just as the world seemed to tip forward, her phone lit up on the counter, screen glowing with a name I recognized. Her daughter, calling again. Neither of us looked away from each other. Her phone kept buzzing, the glow on the counter cutting through the dim kitchen. She didn't move to answer, didn't even glance at it again, but I did. Because I saw the name. Clearly this time. Not just her daughter. It was my roommate's name. The air in my lungs turned heavy. My body went cold, even as her hands were still pressed beneath mine. I pulled back, too suddenly, and her arms dropped to her sides. Confusion flickered across her face, then something sharper when she realized I wasn't looking at her anymore. I was staring at the phone. Her voice was cautious. "What?" I swallowed hard, pointing at the screen. "Why is he calling you?" The color drained from her face. She snatched the phone from the counter, turned it face down again. "Too late." "No," I said, shaking my head. "Don't do that. Don't pretend I didn't see it." Her lips pressed together, her silence louder than anything she could have said. "Are you?" My voice broke, came out harsher than I meant. "Are you seeing him too?" The question hung in the air, sharp and poisonous. She stepped back, one hand over her mouth, eyes wide in something like shame. "Not denial. Not yet. That's not what you think," she whispered finally. I laughed, bitter, empty. "You keep saying that, like it fixes anything." Her shoulders slumped. "I didn't plan this. Any of this." The words hit hard because they felt true, but they didn't answer the question. I ran a hand through my hair, pacing a few steps, every part of me buzzing with heat. I'd come here thinking I was the one chasing danger, the one risking something. Now it felt like I'd been the fool all along. "You knew," I said, quieter now, more accusation than statement. "You knew I'd find out eventually." Her voice cracked. "I ended it with him weeks ago. Before you. Before I even." She cut herself off, pressing her hand harder against her mouth. The silence after that was unbearable. My chest tightened, torn between wanting to believe her and wanting to walk out the door. She took a step forward, eyes desperate, searching. It wasn't real with him. It was distraction, loneliness. "But you." She stopped herself again, as if the truth was too dangerous to let out. I met her gaze, fury and ache colliding in my chest. "But me what?" Her eyes glistened. She looked at me like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, one step from falling. The phone buzzed again in her hand, vibrating between us like a lie that wouldn't stay buried. She turned the screen so I could see it this time. His name still lit up, insistent, demanding. And then, with a steadying breath, she pressed accept. She lifted the phone to her ear, but didn't walk away. Her eyes stayed on me the whole time, like she wanted me to hear every word. "Hello," she said, voice steadier than I expected. On the other end, faint but clear, came my roommate's voice. "Why aren't you answering me?" "I'm outside." "Open the door." The blood drained from my face. Her gaze flicked toward the hallway, then back to me. She didn't move. Not tonight, she said, firm, final. Don't come back. A pause. Then his voice sharpened. Is someone there? Her lips parted, but no words came. Silence stretched, cruel, until she said softly, goodbye. And she hung up. The sound of the call ending echoed louder than the ticking clock. She placed the phone down, slow, deliberate, like it weighed too much to hold. I could barely breathe. You should have told me, I said. Her voice cracked. I was afraid you'd walk away. I shook my head, pacing, hands pulling at my hair. Instead, you let me find out like this? From him. I didn't let you, she said, louder now, stepping forward. It happened. I didn't plan it. I didn't plan you. The words hit me hard, sharp with truth, and something I couldn't name. I stopped pacing. My chest felt like it might split. Then what am I to you? She flinched, like I'd asked the one question she'd been avoiding. When she finally spoke, her voice was raw, stripped bare. The first thing in years that feels alive. My throat tightened. Anger and ache tangled in me until I didn't know what to do with my hands, my body. I wanted to leave. I wanted to hold. I wanted everything at once. Her eyes searched mine, desperate, almost pleading. You think I don't know how wrong this looks? How reckless. But when you walk in, the air changes. And her voice broke. She pressed a hand against her chest. I can't make it stop. I stared at her, and something inside me cracked open. All the fury, all the shame, it twisted into something else. Not forgiveness, not yet, but something close enough to keep me rooted there. I don't care about him, I said, voice low, shaking. I don't care how it looks. I just don't want to feel like I'm the only one risking something. Her face softened, breaking and beautiful at once. She stepped closer, slowly, carefully, until her hand brushed mine again. This time, she didn't pull away. You're not, she whispered. For a long moment, neither of us moved, the weight of everything pressing down on us. The past, the lies, the fear, they were all there. But so was this unbearable closeness, this pull neither of us had managed to resist. Her hand tightened around mine. My breath caught. And then, in the quiet of that kitchen, she leaned in, so close her forehead touched mine. We didn't kiss. Not yet. But the choice had been made. Her forehead rested against mine. Both of us too still, too careful, like any movement might shatter the fragile space we'd carved out of the night. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of everything we hadn't said, everything we'd almost done. My chest rose against hers, our breaths uneven, tangled. She whispered, barely audible. If we do this, there's no going back. I closed my eyes. Maybe that's the point. Her hand slid down, fingers threading with mine, tight enough that I knew she didn't want to let go. But her body trembled, her grip both a promise and a hesitation. I've already lost too much, she said softly, her voice catching on the words. My marriage, my family's trust. If my daughter ever. She broke off, shaking her head. I can't lose her too. The words dug deep. I wanted to tell her I understood, that I could carry that risk with her. But I also knew part of me didn't understand, couldn't. I was younger, freer, without the years of mistakes and responsibilities she carried. You won't lose me, I said instead. Her eyes met mine, searching, heavy with something I couldn't untangle. Love, fear, regret, all of it woven together. And for once, she didn't argue. The clock ticked, steady, loud. Outside, the world kept moving, cars passing, leaves shifting in the night wind. In here, time felt suspended. Finally, she pulled back, just enough to look at me fully. We need to stop lying. To ourselves. To anyone else. I nodded, throat tight. Then tell me. Right now? What do you want? She didn't answer right away. Her lips parted, closed, then parted again. She looked away, then back at me, her eyes shining. And finally, she said it. You. The word landed like fire and water at once. Relief. Ache. Hunger. Everything I'd been waiting to hear. I exhaled, shaky. My hand cupped her face before I realized I'd moved. And this time, when I leaned in, she didn't pull away. The kiss wasn't soft, wasn't tentative. It was years of regret colliding with unspent youth, loneliness breaking open into something raw and undeniable. Her hands held my shirt like she needed me steady. Mine held her like I was afraid she'd vanish. When we finally broke apart, our foreheads touched again, breaths mingling in the space that had stopped feeling dangerous and started feeling inevitable. She laughed, quiet, broken, beautiful. We're in so much trouble. Yeah, I whispered. But I'd rather be in it with you than anywhere else. She smiled softly, the kind of smile that felt like surrender. And for the first time all night, I knew we weren't testing each other anymore. We were choosing. The night stretched ahead, uncertain, complicated, messy, but the choice had been made. Together. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you leave?